Hello. Here we are again, Monday night. And just for the record, NBC as a news organization still sucks. Just for the record. I'm Leticia Remauro, and you have landed on Let's Talk News. And I am glad that you're with us today because we're going to talk about whether or not the United States government should shut down. Because apparently there's a game of chicken going on between the Republicans and the Democrats about extending the CR, the continuing resolution, so that they can get an actual bill done, because in the past is all we've had was CRs, which were keeping the government open. And now they'd like to actually adopt a budget like it's supposed to be done. But the Democrats have a problem with that. Oh, look, we have people today. Hello. Happy Monday, Colleen. How are you? How are you, Debbie Lebedo? Good to have you back. Hello there, Susan DeRema. How are you? What do you guys think about this shutdown stuff? And here's Angela Bricka. How are you, Angela? I mean, honestly, would it be so bad? Should we cave to Chuck Schumer, who wants $1.5 trillion more than what it was in the bill that we adopted? Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. Hello, Andrew Dorman and Gloria and Francine. Good to have you all here. The truth is that's what they want. For the little tiny CR, they want Trump to do a rescission on the big, beautiful bill that was passed. And they would like $1.5 trillion, with a T, trillion dollars, to be spent on Medicaid, healthcare. They're saying people are dying, places are closing. I don't know. How about by you? Do you know of any place that closed because of the big, beautiful bill? I don't. It's a constant game of cat and mouse. I think it's a constant game. I agree. But it's also a constant game of bullshit in politics, and I'm tired of it. Hello, Ms. Maisie. Good to have you there. And Colleen wishes you hello, too. I'm going to remind everybody, when Trump wanted $5 billion to build the border wall in his first term. Do we remember that? $5 billion to build a border wall, which would have, oh, by the way, had they given it to him, it would have stopped the need for the $1.5 trillion that the Democrats want now. Why would that $5 billion have stopped the request for the $1.5 trillion, you ask? I'm so glad you asked. Because it would have stopped the 25 million immigrants coming across, illegal migrants coming across the border, who are now all taking Medicaid. Well, not all, but many are taking Medicaid. I'm going to show you something about that in a second. No, they want big bucks for non-qualified Medicaid and sex changes. Yeah, but the thing that they want most is for Medicaid, for the migrants. They're on Medicaid. What did I do with it? Crap. 7 million more people were added to Medicaid during the Biden administration. And that's with all the people who passed away from COVID and everything else, and the normal, cycle of passing away. So suddenly we have more than 7 million people just on Medicaid. Where's Debbie watching? I came to this account to see her comments. Lol. Last night I was on other. Debbie, where do you watch from? Which account? My Let's Talk News, my Leticia Remauro Professional, or my personal? The wall would have saved American money. Yes, and lives. And lives. Hello, Mama. Good to have you here. All right, so let's remind ourselves of the little discussion Trump had with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi back in, I think this was 2018.
You know what? We need border security. That's what we're going to be talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government. This country needs border security. The wall is a part of border security. Let's have a talk. We're going to get the wall built, and we've done a lot of wall already.
How big a part of border security is the wall?
It's a big section. It's a big part of
Is
it.
it everything that you need?
It's a big part of it. We need to have effective border security. We need a wall in certain parts. No, not in all parts, but in certain parts of a 2,000-mile border, we need a wall.
How much money?
We are doing it much under budget. We're actually way under budget on the areas that we've renovated and areas that we've built. I would say if we got $5 billion, we could do a tremendous chunk of wall.
Are you willing to accept less, though, and are your guests?
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see. Look, we have to have the wall. This isn't a question. This is a national emergency. Drugs are pouring into our country. People with tremendous medical difficulty and medical problems are pouring in, and in many cases, it's contagious. They're pouring into our country. We have to have border security. We have to have a wall as part of border security.
Was he wrong? Tell me. Somebody, was he wrong? I think he was right about everything. Because when they didn't give him the wall and Biden became the president, and that's why they didn't give him the wall, because they knew what they were doing. They were trying to tee up the migrants to come in, and everything he said was going to happen happened, right? From fentanyl to drug to human trafficking to children to women to people from all countries. It just was worse than he had predicted, and what he predicted at the time was pretty dire. But then it became worse when it actually happened. Right about everything, yeah, really. Hello, Professor. Good to have you here. Yeah, he was right about everything. So let's just take a look at what him being right about everything and Pelosi and Schumer not understanding just the way things go, or just being political, what is that called? Useful idiots for the elite. Let's just see what it's costing our country. Watch this.
I'm Christine Frizzell. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is sounding alarm bells about just how many undocumented immigrants are receiving taxpayer-funded benefits. This morning, there are new warnings on the impact. California's Medicaid system in crisis, with Governor Gavin Newsom recently asking for not one, but two emergency loans totaling more than $6 billion to try to plug holes in the budget, after far more undocumented migrants enrolled in Medi-Cal than anticipated.
In the current year, to cover undocumented individuals in Medi-Cal, we're spending $9.5 billion total funds.
The state of California has taken tens of millions of dollars from the federal government, providing free health insurance for illegal immigrants in California. We're going to get that money back.
A similar crisis in New York, where immigrant enrollment in emergency Medicaid has surpassed 480,000 people, as Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency team insist they've discovered at least 1.3 million illegal migrants have Medicaid. DOGE working to make massive cuts.
In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Some warning the cost-cutting will in fact hit Medicaid, despite promises by the president they won't. Supporters of providing those benefits say it helps protect the entire community when undocumented immigrants are able to stay healthy. Governor Newsom and others showing no sign of changing course.
No chance of rolling back any of the immigrant health care.
It's not on my docket.
And on Capitol Hill, Republicans just introduced a bill aimed at preventing any state from using federal Medicaid funds to provide health care benefits for undocumented immigrants. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
That open border opened up Pandora's box of crime and an expense to the U.S. On the money, 100%, Debbie. So when people like to say on the woke and on the left that if the undocumented are healthy, then it's better for us all. Well, that's true. But if the undocumented weren't here, it would be better for us all. Not that they should never come. They should have come the correct way. Because the problem is we don't know who is here. And we have seen this. I'm listening to news reports of women being raped and molested and abused, children being killed and strangled and tossed around. We don't know who is in our country, and we have lost so many Americans to criminals because other countries just opened up their jails and sent them here, and Biden accepted them. Not to mention the fentanyl. So the one thing about becoming immigrating the proper way is that we get to know who you are, we get the information of where you are, and we get to find out if your criminal history is such that it would put the country at risk. But we all know that. I'm preaching to the choir, as we all know. But now here's what do we do? What do we do now? Because right now Trump's going after the worst of the worst. But what's going to happen down the line? I mean, so maybe there's a couple of million real hardcore criminals here. But then what's going to happen to the rest of them? How are we going to find them? Especially with, religious organizations, Catholic charities, and so many trying to hide them. And so many haven't gotten Social Security cards. If you have a Social Security card and you're working in a driver's license, you can bet your bottom line that they're also voting. No health care for illegal aliens. Thank you, Ernest. I don't know, though. Hi, John. Good to see you. How are you today? I don't know who's going to cave and who's not. I'm going to guess Trump's not going to cave, and I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, I want to know what you think. Do you care if the government closes? If for Trump to, stand on his point that they're not going to add $1.5 trillion in spending on Medicaid for migrants? Those are just Medicaid dollars. Imagine the price tag with the food and housing and transportation. Oh, it's way up there. Food, housing, and transportation way out there. All right. So anyway, Trump met with Schumer and Jeffries. And does it bother anybody else that both the Senate Minority Leader and the House Minority Leader are both from New York? It really bothers me because, not for nothing, New York is not the best run state that there is. It would bother me it bothers me just as much as it bothered me that Nancy Pelosi and what's his name, the minority leader in Congress, were both from California. How is it that these really, really poorly run states are getting leadership positions in Congress? But it really burns my ass about Jeffries and Schumer, because if they became the leader of both those houses in the midterms, we would have a national government that looks like New York proper. Not a good look. Not a good look. Also hold on a second. What do we got? I'm sorry, I'm missing some things because I'm talking too much. Close it up. No caving. Good. My husband says shut it down, and I knew he would. Colleen. Also, the impact on education is negative due to multiple languages and overcrowding, and that they never had their shots or their vaccines, right? Or healthcare treatment. No needless entitlement programs should be given to illegal migrants. They're all needless because they shouldn't have come here the way they did. Close it. Half of them are on anti-Trump policy instead of doing real work. Yeah, so it's just, it really is. I don't know if we're ever going to get everybody back to where they were and get back to point A being in 2016, we still had migrants breaching the border. We still had many illegal migrants here. Some say that the number of illegal migrants in the United States back then was about 5% of the population. Now it's about 2% of the population. And that's enormous. We're at 330 million Americans. So you figure that out. Not good. But okay, we already talked about that. Okay, so let's hear from Schumer and Jeffries after they met with Trump. It was a really interesting take And again, that both of them are from New York just burns my ass.
We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment, as well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before. When I was leader, we negotiated 4 times with Republicans, and we never had a shutdown. And so it's up to the Republicans whether they want to shut down or not. We've made to the president some proposals. Our Republican leaders will have to talk to them about them, but ultimately he's the decision maker. And if he will accept some of the things we asked, which we think the American people are for, on health care and on rescissions, he can avoid a shutdown. But there are still large differences between us.
There was a frank and direct discussion with the President of the United States and Republican leaders, but significant and meaningful differences remain. Democrats are fighting to protect the health care of the American people, and we are not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of everyday Americans. Period. Full stop. There's a Republican-caused healthcare crisis that is causing hospitals and nursing homes and community-based health clinics all across the country, in rural America, urban America, small-town America, the heartland of America, and black and brown communities throughout this country. And that crisis is happening right now. And that's why we believe there is urgency to both keeping the government open, reaching a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, their economic well-being and quality of life, while also addressing the dangerous Republican healthcare crisis.
So, he was saying that we have a healthcare crisis and places are closing across America. Now, forgive me if I sound a little foolish here and I'm making things basic, but that would tell me that if places closed because the big beautiful bill was adopted several months ago and places have already closed, that means that all their funding was coming from the government. Is that what we're looking for in America? All the funding coming from the government? No funding coming from insurance? That's a scary thought. That's a scary thought. And this is why it's a scary thought. Even if you're a socialist, right? Even if you want the government to run everything. What happens when people just stop working? Where's the money coming from? What happens if people don't want to work in America anymore? And the government's cut goes down by quite a bit. What happens if all the billionaires and trillionaires and millionaires decide that they were leaving and they were going to go live in Italy with that nice Giorgia Meloni lady? Then there'd be no health care for anybody, right? Because when you are 100% dependent on government for an entity to succeed, then if the government can't afford you anymore, you're gone. Think about that. Just a thought. You would think that if you really worried about somebody's health, that you would try to give them a way to earn and keep themselves healthy and not depend on the possibility of something going out. No Democrat input because it all output for hardworking Americans to pay for. Well, that's good analysis. The thing is, there was Democrat input. Only one person actually voted for it, but the Democrats could have had input. They didn't want it. Healthcare prices because the illegals. Yeah, everything is going up because of the illegals. They're such liars. I agree with Maisie Trapp. Shut it down. No caving. They're politicians of the worst sort. The ones that don't care about you and I. They say they care about us, but when push comes to shove, they only care about the power that they can have and the entities they serve, which is the global elite. Medical crisis is because of all the med professionals who left during COVID not wanting to get vaxxed. I think you're right. That's why I won't go back to New York for my healthcare, because quite frankly, I know that the people with the biggest brains all said no to the vax because they knew it wasn't tested, and they heard what was going on with the people that were running for it. So for me, knowing that all those people left Mount Sinai and other places and came down here to South Carolina, I will not go to New York anymore for my health care. Nobody trusts government or medical professionals at this point, or the news media, or the judiciary, right? I mean, let's just tick off what Joe Biden's administration has done for people's trust in their government and in things that we held dear for very, very long. The majority of funds for my nursing homes are Medicaid. Okay, Medicaid, not Medicare? Oh, right, because I'll tell you why. Because how that works is that if you have a house, you have to exhaust all your funds first, right? Your personal funds, before you know, and then what? You know, so to get into the nursing home, you would have to sell your house and exhaust all your personal funds. And then after that, when you have no more money left, they put you on Medicaid. So that's why I have an insurance policy that will take care of, you know, my health and Bob's health, because the way we're setting it up right now is to make sure that the nursing homes get all the money and generate, or that people have to scam, right? Put their house in somebody else's name and do some interesting accounting so that they can get on Medicaid, so that the nursing home bills are paid, which is why the nursing homes are starving, and why there's not enough people to handle what goes on there. And at the end of the day, the person who, you know, scammed to get into the nursing home on Medicaid is not being taken care of because there's not enough staff. You see how that works? Just doesn't work well. We're going to see that happen in New York City when everyone leaves with the new mayor. You're absolutely right. And maybe we'll get a taste of it and make sure we never do that again. Trump is trying to stop the bleeding. Yeah, he always is. What you said was an example of how socialism crashes. Nobody working anymore. Absolutely. Whoever thought that being poor is the way to go. But that's the thing. And I think we found that out with Robert, right? Because he couldn't stay on my health insurance anymore, and he couldn't earn enough with his disability to pay for health insurance, and so he was on Medicaid. And when he got the best treatment that there was. I'll never forget one of the people, one of his doctors said, "Oh, this is the gold standard of care, Medicaid. Yes, protect your home, put it in a trust." Yeah, listen, that's the best way. But also look for long term, right? So you don't want to be stuck in a nursing home where they don't have enough staff to care for you. Look into senior living. Look into step up facilities, right? Where you have, an apartment, but you have home health aides, and you have people who help you drive and shop and all that stuff. And then when you get to a point where you can't do it for yourself anymore, you go into the nursing care facility. But that's what Bob and I are doing. We're making those plans now because we love our daughter and our grandson, but why the hell should they be wiping our ass? It's not for them to do. You know, we work so hard so that they could have something. So we're going to leave them a legacy of wealth, and we're going to still be taken care of and live well right up until our last days, because we're making plans and we're not depending on the government to do it. My parents have 5-year long-term care insurance. Yeah, it's good stuff. So bypass 5-year look back. Also house and trust. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense for everybody who is getting older, and that's all of us, right? So let's not be at the mercy of these assholes, because quite frankly, they're all talking about how we need to sacrifice more. We need to take care of these poor migrants. They have the best health care that there is. And, you know, when the government shuts down, they're not taking a paycheck. And I guarantee you, not one of them will miss their paycheck, to prove their point. Not one. They're just not cut that way. Okay, here's the Republicans' answer to Schumer and Jeffries.
By way of review, the House is getting back to the way the regular appropriations process is supposed to work. 12 separate appropriations bills passed through the House Appropriations Committee, 3 off the floor. The Senate doing their work as well. All this in bipartisan fashion, by the way. They passed 3 bills in the Senate. Those bills don't match up exactly. So for the first time in years, since 2019, you have a conference committee that is being constituted between the House and the Senate. This is the way a bill becomes a law. They work out the differences. All this is happening in bipartisan fashion. The problem is we run out of clock. September 30th is the end of the fiscal year, so we need a little more time. So what we did in the Republican majority is the right, responsible, simple thing. A clean, continuing resolution, a short-term, nonpartisan continuing resolution. It's only 24 pages in length. Leader Thune has a copy if you want to see the exhibit. There's nothing partisan in here. No policy riders, none of our big party preferences, because we want to do the right thing by the American people and allow more time for negotiation. Now, there's a reason that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have come out here, stomp the feet, saying that they can't go along with this. They're trying to bring in extraneous issues. They issued a counter proposal. You should go take a look at what they requested. $1.5 trillion in new spending that is unrelated to the ongoing appropriations process. They wanted to, as you said, restore taxpayer-funded benefits, okay? Hard-working taxpayers in America. They want to take your funds and give that for benefits to illegal aliens. They want to restore that because we got rid of them. They want to prop up left-leaning media outlets. $500 million they threw in on top of that. $1.5 trillion on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. We're not going to do that. They know we can't do that. If the Democrats make the decision to shut the government down, the consequences are on them, and I think it's absolutely tragic. We've never said that was a good idea. We never believed it is. And I want you to remember, when we voted in the House, we passed it out of the House. The House has done its job. We did that almost 2 weeks ago. Every Democrat in the House except one voted to shut the government down. That is the record.
This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're talking about. 24 pages, continuing resolution to fund the government through November the 21st. I don't know where they're saying this is some huge partisan thing. This is something we do fairly routinely. And when the Democrats had the majority on 13 different occasions, they had the majority, President Biden was in the White House, we passed continuing resolutions to fund the government. This is purely and simply hostage taking on behalf of the Democrats.
There you go. $1.5 trillion in a 7-week spending bill. So that's what Chuck Schumer and Jeffries want. They're giving sob stories about mothers, with daughters with cancer who was likely going to die now for some reason or another, because, Trump and the Republicans passed the big, beautiful bill. I don't know one hospital, and I know there are people out here in the medical profession. Let me know the last time that a hospital threw out a mother and a child for not being able to pay and allowed a child to die of cancer. Tell me. No freaking way. Let's see. Staten Island, 25 patients to 1 RN. Think about that. Think about that. I'll take care of you. Oh, yeah, really? Who's going to take care of you? No, thank you. I am going where the professionals are, and they can take care of me, and I'll have a nice long life. They don't need paychecks. They have slush funds and NGOs. You're right about that. Okay, and so this one I could talk over. So while Schumer and Jeffries are crying the crocodile tears that poor people are going to lose their Medicaid and they're not going to be able to survive, this is what Gillabrand is doing. Gillabrand is the head of the DSCC, and she is inviting people to Napa Valley for a retreat. Okay, so this is Monday, October 13th and Tuesday, October 14th. And here is the agenda. They're going to do a wine tour and lunch. And look at this beautiful room. This is just a gorgeous little hotel that Yountville, I think it's called. lovely little suite. Look, you have your patio outside, your umbrella and chair. Not cheap, my friends. Not cheap. These suites are thousands of dollars. So, who's paying for that? Who's paying for that? So, this is how tone deaf the Democrats are. They're crying about, people losing their Medicaid, and they need trillions of dollars put back for the poor people. But we're going to go on a super fabulous vacation to the wine country to discuss your measly peon lives. Okay? And on that, I'm going to say thanks for joining me and good night. I'm going to see you tomorrow, and we're going to talk about some more crazy stuff that's happening in the news. People couldn't get life-saving treatments when they refused to get vaccinated. No treatment and no transplants. Dems weren't worried about them. You know what, Maisie? Bingo. That's the way to end it. See you tomorrow.